Like, you know what? This is what happens when you are running for Congress and you're on your own budget. You have to figure out how things work. All right, so our first question is, what is an independent candidate? Great question. So an independent candidate is someone who does not have a political party. So not a Democrat, not a Republican, not a Libertarian, not a Constitutional Party, and not part of the Green Party. So I am out here by myself doing my own thing, basically is what it means. So it also means that there is a completely different way that you get on the ballot as an independent candidate. You have to, if you're part of a party, you go through a primary system where all of the nominees are slated. Like, you say that you want to be part of, you want the nomination. And then the party gets to go and tell you, hey, cool, we'll put you on our election. And then you have one election to see who your nominee is. And then you have the election in November. I don't get that first election because I'm not part of a party. So what I have to do instead is get 6,000 petition signatures and then send them to the Secretary of State's office and say, hey, look, all these people want me on the ballot too. So that's what an independent candidate is. Basically, I made life so much harder for myself. That's what it comes down to. But yeah, an independent candidate, short answer, a candidate with no party. Sweet. All right, next question. Woo. I'm sorry, I've got a Harry Styles song in my head and it like will not leave. Strawberries on a summer evening. Why is that in my brain? Just waiting for our next question. Cool, cool. What are you going to do for us in the 7th District? Great question. Always a question you should ask your political nominees. So my 3 main priorities are increasing funding for education, increasing funding for infrastructure, and corporate tax reform. Those are my 3 big priorities. Of course, there are other things as well that I would really like to push for, especially like funding the U.S. Postal Service, which is my favorite thing in the entirety of the U.S. government. I love the Postal Service. I already have a blog up about how much I love it, so I won't rant about it here. But if you want to hear me rant about the post office and how amazing and wonderful it is, then go over to my Audrey for Congress YouTube channel, which you can access via YouTube or my website. And you can listen to me just gush about how much I love the post office. But to get back to the 3 main priorities, so the first is education. That is my number 1 priority. It has always been very important to me. So the specifics in that, I actually have another vlog where I talk about the IDEA Act, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It was passed in the 70s, and of course it's been updated since. But there are certain requirements that kids with learning disabilities or physical disabilities need. They need to have, you need to adapt a curriculum to them. And so at the start of every school year, you would go, or you're supposed to, the school has a whole plan for the school year, what the goals are for the students to learn. And then they do quarterly checkups to make sure that they're meeting all of the milestones. Now, a lot of times that doesn't get done because the school doesn't have funding and they don't have the ability to provide for these kids because they don't have enough teachers, or they don't have the bandwidth, or they don't have the facilities, etc. So that's one of the things that I would focus on, is funding, because you can't throw money at a problem and expect it to be fixed, but you have to have money in order to fix a lot of these problems. And so increasing funding for rural and inner city schools is one of my number 1 priorities. And like I said, the IDEA Act is one of those things. Obviously, if you've been to a public school, like, some of that crap's kind of janky. So, and we need to get it fixed. You can't have students going into school and expect them to learn at their highest abilities if the facilities are less than ideal. And let's see, what else? Infrastructure. Apparently, there are some people who don't quite understand what I mean when I say infrastructure. That refers specifically to roads and bridges, and basically any sort of like form of transportation. So that would be increasing funding for public transportation and those sorts of developments. And So increasing funding for like MoDOT or anything, any agency in any state really, because you're at the federal level, but especially for Southwest Missouri, we are 8th worst in the nation for roads and bridges, and only 30% of our roads and 40% of our bridges are in good condition. So that is obviously super important. Like, you don't like driving over potholes, but someone has to pay to have the potholes fixed. So who's going to do that? Well, you have to pay somebody, and so the money's got to go somewhere, and you've got to get the money from somewhere. I'm sorry, is what I meant to say. So you have to get the money from somewhere, and I would, you know, I'm sorry, there's so many cars. And they're like mowing. Oh man, I picked a really great time for this. But it's all about transportation, surface transportation infrastructure. So that would be the FAST Act, Fixing America's Surface Transportation. I would help facilitate another one of those. And basically provide funding to fix roadways, bridges, and everything that we need to make our drives and our commutes safer. It's a really long-winded answer for infrastructure. And then finally, corporate tax reform. That one's really important because obviously during the pandemic, the richest people in this country have gotten like $500 billion richer, and we're like all struggling to even keep jobs and stay in our homes. And so corporate tax reform is essentially ensuring that the upper class individuals, the top million, like hundreds of millionaires and billionaires in this country, pay their fair share in taxes. And that includes like Amazon, bigger companies like Google, any company that takes in revenue. And so you're closing these loopholes, and it's the two specific loopholes are the tax credits that they get for R&D and for building new factories and facilities. Two things that you are already incentivized to do under capitalism. It's like, we don't need to give you a tax break for these things because Amazon in 2018 netted $215 million off the taxpayers. Like, not only did they not like pay taxes, they received tax rebates. Amazon. It's not like they're in any sort of financial trouble here. Like, I have no idea how this happens. So those are my 3 main points. Just to go over that again, because that was kind of a long-winded answer. Education, infrastructure, corporate tax reform. Those are my 3 biggies. And the U.S. Postal Service is a little bogus. All right, next question. What experience do you have? So I was born and raised here in Southwest Missouri. I was born in Joplin, raised in Kimberling City. I lived, I guess, the first 2 years of my life in Cassville. Not that I really remember that, but I went to Reed Spring for school. I took dance classes in Hollister. So, like, I've been all over the district. I've lived all over the district. So, but in terms of like actual government experience, I went to college in Washington, D.C. at George Washington University, which was at the time the most politically active school in the entire country, which, pat, I'm very proud. Go Colonials. And I actually spent 6 years working at the U.S. Treasury Department. So I have both an academic understanding, because I have a degree in political science, and I have actual hands-on bureaucratic experience because I spent all that time at the U.S. Treasury Department as an intern for communications, and then as the IT knowledge manager. So there's my experience. Hey, all right. Do we have another question? We could talk about more about my experience and how much I love Washington, D.C. I really enjoy Nationals baseball. I actually used to write about baseball for a few different baseball blogs. I wrote for Beyond the Box Score, which is the SB Nation Sabermetrics blog, and then I wrote for Viva El Burgos, which is the Cardinals SB Nation blog, and then I wrote for Federal Baseball, which is the Nationals blog. And then after all of that, I was actually hired last year at Fangraphs, which is like a dream come true because there's like no better place to write about baseball. Love Fangraphs. All right. What is your favorite part of the 7th District? Ooh. Good question. I don't really know if I have an answer for that one. I would say that one of my favorite parts is definitely like whenever Branson got Chick-fil-A. Love that. Favorite part of the 7th District? You know what? Honestly, the answer has to be Silver Dollar City, right? I mean, I've been going to that park since I was like 4. love Silver Dollar City, and I live here in Branson, so it's the best theme park in America. It's got the best theme park food in America. It's got the best Christmas celebration. So if you want to say that Disney's better than Silver Dollar City, fight me. I'm totally kidding. I would love to go to Disney World. Please take me. But yeah, so Silver Dollar City would have to be my favorite part of the 7th District. Do we have another question? That song will not leave my brain. It's not leaving my brain. I'm trying to think of other parts of the 7th District that I could probably claim as my favorite, but they're all like Branson landmarks to me. Like obviously Dixie Stampede is great. I love Joplin. I love everything about Joplin. I was born there. I love Joplin. I can't wait to go back. And I love Springfield. I'm there all the time, at least once a week. Mama Jean's, one of the best natural food stores, but we finally got a natural food store here in Branson as well. It's called Nature's Wonders. Love it. I'm there at least twice a week. Love. They have the best mango juice, and they have pretty good smoothies too. So, any other parts of the 7th District that I love? I love everywhere. I have family up at like, Aurora and Pierce City, that area. I have family up in Coral Junction. I love the 7th District. Like, I love this place. This is my home. And so, like, everywhere really is my favorite part. But obviously, Silver Dollar City takes top honors. What part of the district do you feel is underrepresented? Lots of parts of it. I don't feel like much of it is represented at all, actually. I don't think Billy Long does a very good job of representing anybody who doesn't conform to his worldview. I think that they tend to get left out. So anybody who is in like the very lower income bracket, like for example, we have like thousands of people here in Branson who live in extended stay motels, and like that's not right. You shouldn't be forced to live in extended stay motels with a family and a full-time job. You shouldn't be forced to do that. I think everybody should have access to affordable housing, so that's a whole thing. But so I think those people who make less than $15 an hour, the people who live in places like, well, I mean, they aren't Springfield, honestly. Like, how many times does Billy Long go anywhere except Springfield? I mean, I was just saying, like, I love this entire district. Everywhere is pretty underrepresented. You can find somebody, whether it's the LGBTQ population, or whether it's minority populations, or whether it's just people who really are not making enough money to survive, that, who's fighting for them? Who's fighting for us up there? Right now, nobody. Billy Long certainly ain't doing it. So I guess my answer to that would be everybody in the 7th District is pretty underrepresented. All right, next question. Why did you decide to run for Congress? Because I hate myself. Just kidding. Not a serious answer. I decided to run for Congress because nobody else was really stepping up to the plate as an independent candidate, somebody who doesn't have to listen to the bosses of a political party. Because, up in DC, you essentially have two partisan machines that make money off of yelling at each other. Okay? So Republicans are going to tell you that Democrats are not doing their job, and that if Democrats win, that the entire country is going to fall to pieces and everything's going to be garbage. And so that's why you should give them money, and you should elect Republicans, because the Democrats are going to, turn the country into something you don't want it to be. And Democrats do the exact same thing, and that's how they make money. They yell at Republicans, and they say that Republicans are like a threat to democracy, and they say that Republicans are bad people inherently, and they say all of these kinds of things. And you're like, well, I don't think that either side of this is portraying anything accurately, and they make their money off of yelling at each other. If they stop yelling at each other, they stop making money. And so they have zero incentives to work together and to fight for what actually is, in our best interest. And so you need somebody that's not part of a party, somebody who is not who's not beholden to anybody like that. And I feel like it's kind of your, like, my duty to try, because I'm I love politics. I love the 7th district. I love, trying to make the world a better place. So this is something that guys should do. And that's why I decided to run for Congress, because we need somebody up there who's like a real person and not a partisan. So, yeah. What is the hardest thing about running for Congress? Getting on the ballot. That is the hardest thing, right? Like, bar none, getting on the ballot is the single most difficult thing that I can imagine. Like, because you don't think that 6,000 signatures sounds like a lot. Because in the grand scheme of things, it's only about 2% of the people who voted in the last election for this position. So you're like, oh, you can get 6,000 pretty easy, right? That's what I thought last July. Yeah, no, not at all. So essentially, I have to get petition signatures. We've talked about this already. All right, here's a petition. Here's what this bad boy looks like, okay? It's got, all of my, cover up the address there. It's got all the info. It's already filled in. We're good. We're going, right? So this one's for, like, Christian County. Every county has to have separate petitions, and then you mark them up here, right. So what you do, you get all of your people to fill out, it's got what name, you got your name, your street address, and whatever. Don't ask for your email or phone number. So you just get your super basics, your basic info. But the hardest part about getting signatures is, like, all I'm trying to do is get on the ballot. You're not going to vote for me. You don't even have to like me, even if you hate me. But, like, it's all about, like, do you believe that I have the right to try? If so, sign the petition. That's the whole point. I'm just trying. I'm not asking for you to do anything except say, hey, Audrey is going to try her best, and that's why she deserves to be on the ballot. That's it. Nothing more than that. That's all signing this petition means. And yet people hate it. They do not want to sign a petition if you don't agree with them. And it's like, look, the one thing that I will promise during the entire campaign is I'm not a liar. I don't lie to you. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear just because it's going to get me your signature. I'm not that kind of person. So, like, getting signatures has been incredibly hard because people will come up to you with a question and you have to say, no, I don't agree with that. And then they're like, bye. Or worse than that, they come up to the table and they're like, oh, I'm going to lecture you on how you are wrong. And then I'm still not going to sign your petition. And it's like, dude, come on. Seriously? If you're not going to sign, I need you to get away from the table because I've got 6,000 signatures to get here and I'm one person. So that's been really frustrating. But, like, in addition to that, so even if I manage to get 6,000 signatures, okay, even if, say, that does happen, and boy, every day that goes by it looks less and less likely, help me, please. But, so you can see down here, all right, you have to sign a circulator's affidavit, okay, and normally that's me. I'm the circulator because I'm the one handing out the petitions and witnessing the signatures, okay? And then you have to go get this bad boy notarized. You have any idea how much it costs to get things notarized? It's expensive. So I was like, cool. So we were hitting it up and we were going to all of these different events. And I had so much planned for 2020. I was going to go to all of these different events. I went to the Women's Show. I went to Brandon Comic Con. We were going to go to Vision Con up in Springfield. We were going to go to all of these really cool different places throughout the district. I was going to hit up Third Thursday in Joplin in April and May and June. And then COVID-19 happened and basically screwed me over so hard that I have no idea what to do. So I've been working with the Secretary of State's office. I say working with, that's a little bit of a misnomer because that implies some reciprocation, but whatever. They've been really helpful in terms of me getting information at least, and so I will say that about them. They've been super helpful at just, like, answering questions and stuff, but in terms of, like, facilitating, any way for me to adapt to the current circumstances, I haven't been able to do it because, like, I thought, okay, I'm not allowed to go out and actually get signatures for 3 months, right? So I'm like, well, how else can you do that? U.S. Postal Service is right there. So I'm going to send out my petitions through the mail. You can't do that, apparently. You know why? Because I can't be the circulator if the petition is in the mail. You, the recipient, have to be the circulator, which means you have to sign this line, which means that you have to go get it notarized. Do you love me so much that you're going to go get this notarized? Do you? You're going to walk outside and go get it notarized? You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. But here's the fun fact. I actually had someone who did want to do that. They were like, hey, Audrey, send me the petition through the mail. I'll go get it notarized because I believe in you. And shout out, thank you so much. But so the Secretary of State and the governor had authorized what are called e-notaries, like electronic notaries, where a notary can do your little notarization electronically. So I'm up in here and I'm like, cool, great, sounds good. I send this woman the information, and it turns out she calls up the Secretary of State's office because there's no contact information for these notaries. So she calls up the Secretary of State's office and says, hey, where can I get my ish notarized? And they're like, oh, we're not giving out contact information for the notaries. Then what's the point of the list? Honestly, like I do not understand why it is so bureaucratically nonsensical, why it is so difficult to get this done. Because you're telling me that you're going to do this electronically, but then like you aren't giving out the resources to go get the electronic notaries done. It's like completely mind-boggling to me. It is borderline impossible to get this done during a pandemic, and they are like, I'm trying to push through, but honestly, y'all, I'm like, I'm kind of like, on my last like, last wits here sometimes, because like I'm willing to put all my money into this. I'm willing to say, hey, I'm all in. I want to get this notarized. I want to get these petition signatures, and yet they're blocking me at every freaking moment. And I'm trying to progress forward, and they're like, no, unless you are standing out there getting signatures, you're not going to be able to get this done. And I'm like, well, so either my options are I stand out here and potentially get coronavirus, or worse, I pass it on to another person. That's on me. All because what? I wanted to get on the ballot? That's not worth it. That's insane. Why would I do that? So I'm like, cool, I'll do it in the mail. You can't do it in the mail, Audrey. I'm like, okay, well then I'll just have everybody in the mail do their own notarization. Sorry, we're not giving out the notarization information. What the heck? So that's kind of where I'm at. And that would be the hardest part about running for Congress, is getting on the ballot. If you can tell, I'm a little bigger, like a little bit, yeah. Next question, why should we sign the petition for you? Simply because you believe that I have the right to try. That's it. I don't care whether you like Billy Long or not, whether you like the Democratic nominee or not, whether you are a hardcore Democrat or a hardcore Republican, it doesn't matter. If you believe I have the right to try, sign the petition, because I'm going to work for you. I'm going to work my butt off for you. I'm going to put everything I have into this campaign. I am 100% in. If you guys can just give me that first step, that first boost. That's it. So, yep, you get me on the ballot and I can prove to you just how hard I'll work. But you got to get me on the ballot first. And that's the hardest part about running for Congress. How do I know you'll work for the people and not special interests or lobbyists? Well, I haven't taken a dime from them so far. So, that was really sassy. I apologize. How do I know you'll work for the people and not special interests or lobbyists? Just, it's not getting me. I don't care about the money. Like, the salary for a congressional person is like $175K a year. I was making $60K in DC when I worked there. So like, this is already quite the boost for me. It's like a 200% increase. So I'm not going to be complaining about getting, to do this. I mean, I say it already, I love this place. This is my home. And I'm not in DC anymore because it wasn't my home. I came back here because this is the place I want to be. And I love the people here. The people here are who made me who I am. And I'm not going to forget about that. I haven't so far. So that would be my answer to that. Okay, another one. Oh boy. Why should I branch out of my party to vote for you? Well, you gotta get me on the ballot first. Why should I branch out of my party to vote for you? Because I'm gonna work for you, man. I think you have to ask yourself, if the nominee of your party had to do something that the leader of their party did not want them to do, but was in your best interest, would you trust them to do what was right for you, or what the heck of their party told them to do? And I think that in both cases, you know the answer. So you want somebody who's going to work for you 100% of the time, who's not going to go up to Nancy Pelosi and say, yo, like, is this what you want me to do? Who's not going to be threatened, who's not going to be cowed by special interests, who's not going to be bribed in any way, who's not going to be someone who stands up there and says, I'm only working with Democrats or I'm only working with Republicans. Someone who's an independent, who's there to get things done. Not to make money, not to sit there and collect a paycheck, just to get things done and accomplished to make life better here for the people of Southwest Missouri. And that's why you should vote for Audrey. All right. Do we have any more questions? Okay, we're going to go ahead and end the chat now because I think we're down to 1 viewer. So, but like I said, this will be up on the YouTube page and it'll be up on here and on the website. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching and for tuning in. And I'm so happy that you guys came over. Not really came over, that you all were willing to watch and help me out here. So thank you so much, and I will see if we can do another one of these another time. Probably one that's not around dinner time. Yeah. Do not do a very good job of scheduling this, but all right, cool. Well, thank you all so much for stopping by. Bye.